Have you ever wondered if a city's buildings can talk? I mean, really tell a story? Not just about history, but about the very ground they're built on? Well, today, we're heading to eastern Finland to explore Kuopio, a city where every single building is part of this amazing conversation between people and nature. Let's dive in. See, the thing about Kuopio is its identity isn't just about the people who live there. It's literally woven from the landscape itself. You just can't separate the city from its water, its rolling hills, and its deep, dark woods. And that relationship, that's the secret key to understanding everything built here, from the very first log cabins right up to today's modern designs. Okay, so before we even get to the architecture, we have to start with the land itself. We're in eastern Finland, a place that's completely defined by this massive system of lakes and a climate that, really demands respect. This powerful setting isn't just a pretty backdrop, it's a main character in this whole story.
This brings us to what I like to call Kuopio's DNA. It's this constant, delicate dance, this balance. On one side, you've got human construction, our need for shelter, for community. And on the other, you have the wild, powerful presence of Lake Kalavesi and all its forests. This ongoing dialogue between the two, well, that's basically the city's genetic code.
So let's wind the clock back, way back. Imagine you're surrounded by just endless forests. What are you going to build with? It's kind of a no-brainer, right? Wood. The city's origins are completely rooted in this one material, a choice made for them by the environment. So when Kuopio was officially put on the map back in 1775 under Swedish rule, it got this very orderly, very 18th century grid plan, a super neat layout with a big market square right in the middle to be its heart, classic stuff for a new town. And virtually every single thing in that grid was made of timber. But life in a wooden town meant you were always dealing with two really powerful forces. First up, just plain survival. The architecture was perfectly designed for the climate. You had steep roofs so the heavy snow would slide right off, and thick walls with small windows to trap every bit of precious heat. But then there was the other constant threat, fire. Man, a single spark could be a total disaster, which is why they started making wider streets and new building codes, all to stop the flames from spreading. Okay, now for a major turning point. The 19th century comes along and brings huge political changes to Finland. And with a new empire comes entirely new ideas about what a city should look like. This shift wasn't just on paper. It would be carved in stone and plaster. And this timeline just shows that flow of change perfectly. You see it right here. 1809, Finland becomes part of the Russian Empire. Then, boom, just a few years later in 1815, this new neoclassical style shows up with the Kuopio Cathedral. But the story doesn't stop there, because by the end of the century, a counter-movement starts to bubble up. Romantic nationalism, as the Finns began searching for their own identity. So what is neoclassicism exactly? Well, unlike the super decorative, frilly styles that came before, this was all inspired by the grandeur of ancient Greece and Rome. Think simple geometric shapes, tall columns, and these really balanced, symmetrical designs. For the Russian Empire, this style was the perfect symbol of order, logic, and raw imperial power. And the absolute best example of this in Kuopio is the cathedral. I mean, its clean white walls, its perfect symmetry, that is pure neoclassicism. It's perched up on a hill, overlooking the whole city, and it became this powerful symbol. Calm, strong, enduring. It's still one of the most recognizable landmarks today. But, not everyone was inspired by all this imperial order. In fact, you started to see a kind of cultural pushback against Russian influence. It was called the Romantic Nationalist Movement, and it looked inward, celebrating a uniquely Finnish identity. Architects turned to folklore and nature for inspiration, using natural materials like rough stone and wood to make buildings feel, organic and deeply rooted in the land. The 20th century brought another massive shift. With independence came the huge challenge of building a modern nation. Architecture's focus changed dramatically. It became all about practicality, efficiency, and social progress. A whole new era was dawning.
1917, that's the year Finland declared its independence. And this single moment is just this powerful dividing line in history, the start of a brand new chapter, not just for the country, but for the kinds of buildings that would define its future.
And that future, it was built on an idea called functionalism. The philosophy was super simple. Form follows function. All that fancy decoration was out, practicality was in. This meant you got buildings with flat roofs, smooth walls, and these huge windows designed to just flood the inside with natural light and make daily life better. After World War II, this practical approach became absolutely essential. As you can see from the chart here, cities like Kuopio just exploded with growth. People were moving in from rural areas, and they all needed a place to live. So there was this urgent need for new, modern, and affordable housing. The solution was the concrete apartment block. Now, I know that might sound a little grim, but for so many families, these buildings offered modern stuff like central heating and indoor plumbing for the very first time. It was a huge deal. And here's that crucial Kuopio twist. The planners deliberately left green spaces between the buildings, making sure that even in these new neighborhoods, that connection to the forests and lakes was never, ever lost. Which brings us right up to today. So how does a city with such a rich, layered history build for the future? Well, in Kuopio, contemporary architecture is all about blending the lessons from the past with the challenges of the present, and that means a huge focus on sustainability. And this slide lays out their modern blueprint perfectly. It's really a synthesis of 4 key ideas. You start with sustainability and designing for people. Then you honor the past. And finally, that all-important 4th point, you always maintain that vital connection with nature. And in this wonderful, full-circle moment, wood is making a huge comeback. Thanks to modern engineering, timber is now being used for everything from single-family homes to massive public buildings. It's a choice that's both sustainable and just a beautiful nod to the city's deepest, oldest roots. So, here's the crucial takeaway. The magic of Kuopio isn't in some grand palace or giant skyscraper. Its skyline is gentle. The buildings rarely ever get taller than the trees. The city's special character comes from this quiet, respectful harmony between what we've built and the natural world that was there long, long before us. And this leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. In a world with rapid urbanization and all sorts of environmental concerns, Kuopio's story offers this really compelling model of balance. So, as our own cities keep expanding, can we maybe learn to build a little more like a place that never forgot its connection to the lakes and the forests?